work with Kwame Onwuachi at Tatiana, which is his restaurant. We've created a wine list together that celebrates diversity, winemakers of color, leaders on wine teams of color, female, Asian-owned, and these are similar to the hospitality field. These are voices that haven't been seen or celebrated as much in the past. Through our time together, JFR has had the privilege of being a part of Wine on Wheels and supporting them, and it's one of the things that reminds you why you're in the business in the first place. A women in wine group that meets quarterly. It's a space that doesn't revolve around certifications or chasing pins. It's just about connection and accountability and staying sharp. So we've created our own space, and it's simple, but it matters.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Hospitality Bites. I am your host and self-proclaimed hospitality hustler, mompreneur, and founder of Hospitality Bites Media. As you all know, I take immense pride in highlighting individuals from all over our industry with the goal of humanizing it. My guests have included restaurateurs, chefs, bartenders, cookbook authors, consultants, advocates, and today we are joined by a fierce and very knowledgeable woman in the beverage sector of our incredible industry. Today's guest has received several prestigious accolades, including Wine Enthusiast 2024 Beverage Director of the Year, Esquire's Beverage Director of the Year in 2021, and she also holds the title as one of the youngest women to pass the Court of Master Sommelier's advanced course on her first attempt at the age of 24. She currently serves as the Beverage Director and Partner at the acclaimed hospitality group JF Restaurants. She also is a philanthropist and advocate for amplifying diverse voices in the beverage sector. Welcome to the show, Amy Racine.
Thank you so much. I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
This is going to be great.
This will be a lot of fun. I was introduced to Amy through CG, who was a guest on my show before. And that's what I love about this show is like one person gets into the next person, into the next incredible individual. So Amy, the floor is yours. When did you start in our industry?
I started when I was, I think, 15 or 16. I'm from the Midwest, small town outside of Cleveland, Ohio. And I started working actually in my dad's office when I was 15, just cleaning. And then when I was allowed to work in a restaurant at 16, I started doing that at a local red sauce joint as a hostess, and I wanted to start working in the kitchen, and they let me help prep with this man named Eugenio twice a week, and I learned how to break down salmon, and they were probably like, what is this girl doing? Why is she working as a hostess and breaking down salmon? And she's 16. But hospitality has always kind of been the center of my life, and even before I realized it was something you could build a career around. I grew up in a house where everything happened at the dinner table. There was joyful moments and celebrations, and the tough conversations happened there. Going out to eat, even just to a family friend's house, was a really exciting experience for us, and I remember how special that felt. So I had a feeling I wanted to go that way. I think I just couldn't really put it into words yet, but I'm a child of the Food Network generation. So I watched a lot of Rachel Ray, Michael Chiarello, all of those people as a kid. I don't think Rachel Ray gets enough credit. She's a badass.
Do you know what's so funny? I still do a scrap bowl. So if you know original Rachel Ray content, there's always a scrap bowl on your counter when you prep food. And I do that to this day. After school, she was my go-to person I watched on TV.
Yeah, she is. And in real life, she's exactly like she is on the show. She's so kind and so sweet. And I don't know her personally, but I've served her a couple of times when I moved to New York, and she's so generous. And like I said, I don't think she gets enough credit for the person she is. But anyways, I watched it religiously, and I thought, that's it. I want to make food and make people feel good. And so I kind of made hospitality a formal decision eventually. And yeah, it was just something I gravitated towards early and kept showing up for, and eventually found a professional way to get there.
Did you think originally you were going to stay in the culinary sector of it then?
Yeah, I went to the Culinary Institute of America. That was the only school that I applied to when I was 17, and there were credentials to get into it, hence my time with Eugenio breaking down salmon. So I needed to get the hours to do that, but I was planning on being a chef full stop. Like, that was the dream. But when I was in school, there was a required wine class that everybody was terrified of. They said it was the hardest one, and it was, but I absolutely loved it. And it was challenging, yes, but it lit me up in a different way. And there was so much history and culture and
Mhm.
geography and layers that I didn't even realize that I was craving. And I had a few instructors who really encouraged me, and they saw something that helped me realize that wine and spirits could be more than a side note. It could be a career. And what I loved about it is also I didn't have to leave the kitchen entirely. I could still collaborate on pairings, and I was still thinking about flavor and tied to the culinary side
Mhm.
somehow. But I also got to be out in the dining room talking to people and guiding them through their experience. And let's be honest, it's a lot less hot and sweaty being on the line, and that was attractive also.
For me, I always said I'm a front of house person.
Mhm.
I have dabbled in the kitchen because there was like desperation needed for someone to get back on the salad line or like prep something,
Yeah.
which I have no problem prepping, but like plating for people, I'm like, that is not for me. I like schmoozing and talking to folks, but I never really got an education about wine and spirits. And you and I got to chat briefly. That is one thing I wish that I had been exposed to younger was understanding and appreciating the beverage side of it. One, upselling is crucial in our industry. And if you can pair something like your beverage with an appetizer or dessert or a main course, you can make a lot more money. And I didn't understand that. I just knew how to upsell, like, let's get a shot, or oh, you want to add a floater to that, or silly things like that, or let's skip happy hour, get this beverage. And now that I'm an adult, I do pride myself in teaching the younger generation of like, hey, let's have a little bit of time in our training to understand what you're selling because it goes a long way on
Yeah.
all aspects.
I agree. And it's funny you said that. You're a utility player in the restaurant world, and that's an
Mhm.
important, good kind of thing to have, even though it kind of can suck in the moment where you're like, oh, I got to go in the kitchen and help. But it's great for job security.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I agree. There's so much taboo, or at least when I grew up. I don't have kids now, and I'm not exactly sure what the culture is like of educating kids right now, but there was so much taboo around alcohol and how to consume it that, everybody jokes about the crazy years in college. And I saw many of my friends go through that. And, some of them struggle with it eventually as an adult. And in my house growing up, I was lucky to be in a place where we very much embraced our Italian American heritage, and wine was a
Mhm.
part of that. So my parents often had wine and they would let me taste it, and I didn't enjoy it. I was curious about, oh, you're having a Montepulciano. What does that taste like versus this one? And I was like, still don't like it. But it didn't become this inaccessible thing that I went
Mm.
crazy with when I turned 21. It was something that was very much integrated into what a meal is.
Right. It was a
Yeah.
part of it.
It
It
was a
wasn't
part
an
of it.
addition or add on. It was actually integrated into your experience.
Yeah, and you respect it, and there's, culture around it that, like I said, I didn't really learn the nuances of until later, but, it was something that was handled the same way you did a good meal. Like, you respected it,
Mhm.
you enjoyed it, you sipped it, you didn't, guzzle it and move on to the next one.
Right. And again, now that I'm well into my 30s, I think back to my college years. I only did a little bit of time in college. I did not do well in school. I just thrived in the hospitality sector. I really wish I had had that appreciation, but in hindsight's 2020. I was living my best 20-year-old life, but it wasn't until I moved to Chicago did I really understand that it was a full immersive thing, that everything that is on that menu has a purpose there, and they do recommendations or suggestions for a reason. It's to enhance your dining experience. I was never really exposed to that. And I'm, kicking myself like, man, I wasted some time, but it is what it is. And those were my own specific struggles that I had to experience. It was a party. It wasn't a career at that time in my early 20s. Did you have any of those types of hurdles when you were in it, like super young?
Plenty. I
Hmm.
came out of school at 20 or 21 because
So young.
it was a 3-year program to get a bachelor's. Like, you just went all the way through, and there wasn't really a spring break. or a summer break. So I was ready to go, but I looked like somebody who just turned legal drinking age and
Mhm.
not somebody who was ready to start talking Burgundy table side. So I got skepticism and a lot of, are you even old enough to be doing this kind of comments. And I felt that it was going to be hard to be taken seriously. And then, compacting that, at that time, there weren't a lot of women, especially young women, in beverage leadership. I could count on one hand the female master sommeliers or female beverage leaders that I knew existed. It just wasn't common. So I felt I had to prove myself constantly, not just in knowledge, but in presence and in confidence. And so I threw myself into every tasting group I could. I took extra classes. I said yes to everything, every industry event I could attend. I wanted to be in the room. And I noticed at some point things started to shift and I started seeing more women and more women my age and more women not my age and different race, abilities. And it just became more diverse and more people who didn't fit the old school sommelier mold. And it was encouraging and still is. And I think it's just getting better all the time. But I think it's something that needs to be nurtured. There was plenty of like, I'd like to speak to the sommelier. Can you go get him? I'm like, oh, it's me. Those kind of comments
Mhm.
that happened in a restaurant. And yeah, I think it's getting much better. And I don't think anybody, at least in major cities, thinks twice when a young female comes over as the beverage lead.
When I started in Chicago, I worked at a place that was years ago, men's only. And I had a customer that was significantly my senior and said to me, there's a skirt running the joint. And it's offensive, but also like comical in the same breath that was like his reaction was like, oh my God, there's a skirt running the joint.
Yeah,
And I said, well, I can vote too. And it was like my immediate reaction. But
that's
that was the time period this person was coming from, right? Like, oh my God. And it didn't offend me. It was just like, wow. It feels like it was a long time ago that women were in places of leadership or like weren't allowed in a place of leadership, but it really wasn't that long ago.
yeah,
My grandmother, she went back to work. She went to work at 40 after raising 6 kids in the 1960s. And that was like, oh my God. And then she made a career for 40 years. But I think it's
yeah.
incredible that you started so young and then to tackle your master somm. What was that like being in that classroom, taking that test at 24?
Like I said, I just wanted it so badly. And I felt, I mean, this is such an overused term now, but like the imposter syndrome, like
Hmm.
I need to prove myself somehow. And I really felt like getting a pin or getting that advanced pin would like just, I honestly felt like it would shut down the conversation before I even got to the table. I was just sick of it. And I
Hmm.
wanted to come up and be like, let's talk about Burgundy or whatever it is. Like,
Right.
I got it. I checked the boxes. We can skip the little dance. So I wanted that so, so badly. So I put the work in. I showed up to, like I said, all of the tastings and I had an amazing tasting group and made some amazing friendships in that tasting group. And many of those people have gone on to do some like really incredible things themselves. And we all went through it together and it was a surreal experience and I just wanted it so bad. I was like I have to get this and I did. Like even if I didn't know an answer, I just said or wrote down everything that I did know because I was like this I'm not doing this again. Like I need to
Mhm.
come out of here with a pin and continue with my life.
It's an incredible achievement. My previous general manager, he tackled it at almost 40, and it was months and months of his life that he would take from work also. He was like, I can't work certain days because I got to be dedicated to my education to learn this. And he was so proud of himself when he got it. Like he came into work with his pin on his blazer. And I was so happy for him. And he was like, it was just something I needed to do, similar to what you're saying. I just want to show that I can
Mhm.
do this, that this industry is so much more than just pouring the wine. There's an entire culture and understanding of where this is coming from. And the more I've met people that take such pride in their beverages, I learned a lot about also craft beer the last 10 years now. And I took a lot of pride in my education and I wrote a pairing book about it. pairing food and beer. And the more I learned, the more I appreciated it. And it kind of, that fizzle way of overindulgence really went away for me. It was more about appreciating it. I do not have that with wine. I do understand it with beer and spirits a little bit more, but it's something that I would love to learn. And just seeing people like you that take such pride in it and creating an actual education in your restaurants too. What is that like when you help people and you partner and you collab to do educational programs and pairings?
Well, it's funny you said that about the beer thing, because after I did the advanced exam, I was like, I think maybe I should try and get a Cicerone. And then I started reading it and I was like, this is very complicated. And like you
I
said,
only have
when
my
you go for
second.
these exams, you have to, it's like a full-time job
Yes.
studying for it. And I was like, I'm gonna pause here. But a team that we've built this amazing team in JFR who feels the same way I do of it's about the people first. And if you have the right person in your restaurant who truly cares about wine and truly cares about creating this experience,
Mhm.
that is so impactful and has so much value, and you just can't teach that. And we're very lucky to have a team that is both very knowledgeable and both wants it very badly, wants to create those experiences and wants to be a part of a
Mhm.
greater team and time together inside and outside of work. And we have a lot of longevity. We all just went to a Yankees game last night, and it's like it's so sweet. And they're building their teams and doing their education in their restaurants. And I just really love that. I think that's probably the most rewarding piece
Mhm.
of it.
Is working with people that care as much as you do.
Yeah, and I mean, seeing them accomplish so much and achieve wine spectator awards at their restaurant and for their wine lists and come up with their own cocktails and start to curate the menu after, we spend, if we hire somebody, we prefer to hire from within, but if we hire somebody that comes on board, we spend, 6 months together, and then they start to like kind of flex their own muscles. And when, it lines up the right way in a way that makes sense for the restaurant and for them and for their team, it's such a rewarding feeling, and I'm so proud of
Mhm.
them. And one of the best parts of where I am in my career now is being able to support people in projects that are truly moving the industry forward. And hospitality is so much more than restaurants and wine lists. It's a community.
Mhm.
And I've been lucky enough to work with people both within JFR and outside of JFR who are making like real lasting change in the space.
I saw that. That's what I love is like in your philanthropy is what I'm calling it because you help create programs that highlight in voices that otherwise may not be heard and giving them space for that. When did you really start diving into that part of your career?
Um, I've I've been in New York for about 10 years, and I was in San Francisco for 4 years before that. And I think it probably happened at some point when I felt confident enough in my work that I was able to see beyond the tunnel vision of opening a new project, get the wine list, get the cocktail menu ready, da da da. Like I was able to see the greater piece and look around and be like, look at all these amazing people, both in this restaurant with me and in the community. Um, and I'm not really sure which came first, but I've been introduced to some amazing people, and like Yannick Benjamin comes to mind and is a great example. Uh, he has a charity called Wine on Wheels, and it's about creating access and visibility to professionals with disabilities in our field. And what he's built, both in terms of his community and awareness, is incredible. And he's someone who understands the industry on not only a technical level, but like a human level.
Mhm.
And I think that combination is really powerful. And through our time together, JFR has had the privilege of being a part of Wine on Wheels and supporting them. And it's one of the things that reminds you why you're in the business in the first place. And there's another gentleman, Torrey Folks, who is of Turning Tables in New Orleans, and he created an education platform for aspiring beverage professionals of color. And it's filling a real gap. There's not a lot of affordable, structured training out there for bartenders, especially in communities that have historically been excluded from this industry. And I've had the chance to teach turning tables and spend time with Touré, and that's extremely rewarding. Well, I was going to say recently, but I think the restaurant's been open for 3 years now. I work with Kwame Onwuachi at Tatiana, which is his restaurant in Lincoln Center. And we've created a wine list together that celebrates diversity and winemakers of color, leaders on wine teams of color, female, Asian owned. And, these are similar to the hospitality field. These are voices that haven't been seen or celebrated as much in the past. So those have been amazing. And I co-facilitate a women in wine group that meets quarterly. It's a space that doesn't revolve around certifications or chasing pins. It's just about connection and accountability and staying sharp. And sometimes when you get to a certain level in your career, you don't have that built-in support anymore. So we've created our own space, and it's simple, but it matters. And there's about, I think, 35 or 40 of us. And then, of course, the Wine Project, which is a project I've done with Marcos Alberti, and we launched the New York edition together, and it's been one of the most professional and powerful projects I've been a part of. What it is we've photographed, he's a photographer, so he photographed people after 1, 2, and 3 glasses of wine, capturing something real and something human that celebrates wine. And my place in it was bringing together this lineup of incredibly diverse hospitality professionals. We had chefs, sommeliers, restaurateurs, media, people running small community kitchens, people at the top of the fine dining world. And to see them all side by side, enjoying wine and sharing stories, it was honest and it was beautiful. And it was a celebration of where this industry is going and how far it's come. And we're working on expanding that to other cities now, and I couldn't be more excited about that.
I took a look at my husband actually had heard of it before I had. He probably saw it on social media. And he's like, "Oh, I've seen this. What I love, and I told you this, is like I'm totally a giggle person with wine. You give me 2 glasses of wine, and I'm the giggly person that's super flush. I try not to I can't have like a super serious conversation because I can't like control my laughter for some reason. I don't know what it is about wine. I'm sure there's some sort of science chemical to it that makes me do this, but I love that you can totally see a story in each photo of where they are. I don't know what the conversation was, but it looked like it was fun. And it does kind of bring people down to a very similar level. I think that's what's so interesting about our industry. And you kind of touched on it with these amplifying diverse voices who don't have access to some of these types of education is there are tiers and levels and leadership titles and followers and likes and all these things, and it becomes like you're constantly trying to chase this level of success. And when you bring people and you kind of just put it on an even playing field, and this way that you did with this photography and this story is beautiful. It really does just kind of put everyone in the same place. You're having fun. We all had the same war stories. I hate saying that, but it's totally true. We somewhat trauma bonded over how hard it used to be and like the things that were said to us. And now we can laugh about it, but it's still real. But we also want to see the industry evolve and keep pushing forward and keep breaking down boundaries and keep up with the rest of the world to the best of our ability. And maybe not even keep up with it, but let's show the world what it's like to actually work with each other. And we say we're this family unit, then start acting like one. Stop with the way we berate people if they can't be successful. If you don't make it on television, you're never going to reach this level of, achievement. It's not necessarily why we all got into the industry. I mean, I didn't know I was going to be a lifer. I got in it because I couldn't succeed in anything else, but I was really good at this. And I've worked my way up to now go into this media sector and share stories like people like you that see so much value in the industry and you're being a part of evolving it. I think the Wine Project is beautiful and all the other things that you're doing. Good for you for you reached a level and then you're taking your seniority or title, whatever it is, and you're doing something better and offering people a different glimpse into the industry. I think it's wonderful.
Oh, thank you. And I that means a lot. And I mean, I feel the same way about what you're doing. I so respect the work you're doing, and I'm so glad to be here. And the environment of hospitality and even media probably is so fast paced, and to stop and take the time to support people and make them feel seen and, tell those good stories is really amazing. So
Thank
thank you for
you.
what you do.
Yeah, I think it's fun to kind of my girlfriends and I, we commiserate about how it used to be. We were all like in our teens and our 20s, and that's how the documentary that I shared with you has kind of evolved is they're real lived experiences. And we can talk about it and complain about it. But what are you going to do about it is like what my hope is. And as you said, the wine project started in New York and now you've expanded it and you're going across to all these different cities. Where are you off to next with it?
Yeah, I still can't believe I'm a part of it, to be honest. I so admire the storytelling and the conversation that Marcos has created.
Mhm.
And it was a serendipitous connection that he and I had when he wanted to bring it to New York. So it felt really surreal. But yeah, from here, we're hoping to take it to other cities. I want more of this. I want more projects, more collaborations, more ways to give back to the community. I want to still be in restaurants for sure, and I want to keep my boots on the ground. I love it way too much to walk away anytime soon, but I also want to keep building these things that have a real impact. So whether it's working with nonprofits or growing my team or opening new bars or launching in another city, the wine project, I'm excited by all of it. And I just want to keep learning, and especially learning for younger people entering the field. And the beverage world is constantly evolving, and so is hospitality. I don't want to assume ever that I know it all. I want to stay open and keep listening and make sure that I'm helping move things forward in the right way. Like you just said, like you're having conversations with your girlfriends. I think that's so important. The commiserating is, like you said, a great bond, and can bring us all together. But yeah, I think it's important to say, like, now what? How can I make a difference or support?
I was told a long time ago, and I think it was my dad. And sometimes I hate admitting things. My dad was right, but he said, never think you're the smartest person in the room because once you do that, you shut yourself off from any sort of evolution of learning more or opening your eyes to other things. And that has really stuck with me, especially as I've like launched this media career or it's weird to say that I just had a total imposter syndrome moment as I said that. Um,
You do. You have a media career.
it's curious because I didn't go to traditional school, but I have had so much fun getting to meet people like you and learning about an industry in your part of New York and wine and beverage director. I never got to that part. Love hearing how it has evolved and like sustainability with everything that people do now when it comes to spirits and wine. What have you found to be the most interesting, I hate to say, trend in sustainability when it comes to cocktails and spirits and wine?
That's a really good question. I think that there's a lot of really good intention behind a lot of sustainability. Think sometimes on the restaurant side, it can be a little short-sighted, and we need to think about, like, what is something that we can actually sustain long term. Like, what are
Mhm.
the little baby steps that we can take in a restaurant to actually make a change, rather than saying we're going to make 100% scrap cocktail, and just doing it for one season
Right.
is one thing. But, like, how can we continue this from the production point of view? I think having transparency on a label of sustainability, organic, all of that kind of stuff is, I think, really important. But it's difficult to navigate, I think, for the consumer. Like, there's different sustainability certifications depending on where you are, not only in the world, but like the United States, and sometimes within a state. So
Mhm.
what does it mean? And what does sustainability mean? What does organic, biodynamic, and so on mean? And how can consumers understand that and still enjoy their wine? Like, if you're not a natural wine person, flavor wise, um, is there a way to kind of translate a wine that's done well, I guess, or done something for the environment, and you understand what you're going to get from a flavor profile also? I think we're on the way, but yeah, a lot of the terminology is so difficult, on top of knowing that Sancerre is Sauvignon Blanc and the grapes in Bordeaux. Like you
Mhm.
have this other layer now, which
Right.
I think makes it even more difficult.
I just had a guest on, and he owns owns a farm in California, and he opened a CPG brand. And he said, he's like, what's so funny about labels is that mine just say the fruit that's on it. That's it.
Mhm.
That's the entire label of what the ingredients is. And you have other sometimes brands that put a label out there and it says organic, but it has 10 other ingredients to it. And he goes, there's this misunderstanding of what labeling should be. And so for him, he just entered the school sector where he sells his dried fruit, and he's now selling it to restaurants and distributors to include in their menu, the recipes, because there is such a waste in California, specifically where he is, of millions of pounds of fruit thrown away a year. And he's
Mm.
like, there's so much that we can do with it. And he's really breaking down this afraid to enter the sustainability space. He's like, I can sell my dried fruit to a bar and then they can put it into a cocktail. At least I know that I'm also helping another part of the industry.
Mhm.
So when we talk about sustainability, it doesn't have to be this huge flashy thing. It's like, hey, we're just using this really great local fruit from the sustainability farm from a gentleman who's a US veteran who just saw a need to not throw things away. And it doesn't have to be this, I think, scientific thing too either that's over explained. It's just a really quick understanding of this is how we're giving back just a little bit. And like you said, little baby steps to introduce people to it because they don't always want to hear, right? Why is this
Yeah.
so good for the planet? Or why is it so great about what we're doing? I
Yeah.
know that you were part of the farm to table era of restaurants and everything was farm to table. Remember my grandmother, she'll go, back in the day, everything was farm to table. There wasn't anything different. And it's so true. That was the way it used to be. You knew exactly where the restaurant was ordering their protein from or what fishermen they used. And I remember that being a huge farm to table movement. And it's like, well, what happened? Where did we lose focus of that? And it's kind of the same with beverages. We do have the ability to have great product and where it's coming from. We just have added so much messiness in the middle of it to get there.
Yeah, I agree. And even you saying just now having organic on the label, like, and then the extra ingredients,
Mhm.
like there's organic grown or it was
Mhm.
made organic in the winery and it's not the same thing. Yeah, we both were a part of that at the same time also with the farm to table thing. I worked at a restaurant in San Francisco that's still there and doing very well. And the two owners really embrace local product and they took it a step further. I don't think they're still doing, maybe they are, I don't know. They opened, they created their own farm basically. So the chefs were dealing with real-time issues of having their own farm for this small Michelin star restaurant. And we have 15 tables and a peach orchard. So what happens when you have 50 crates of ripe peaches and like 50 guests? Like
Mhm.
what do you do with that? And like the team was the one that was like skinning the rabbit, doing the thing. And it was a wild, very eye-opening time. And I think that's when the pendulum was like way over here of
Mhm.
we're gonna do it all ourselves to like maybe we can go to
Mhm.
to the great producers near us that are also distributing to other restaurants. Yeah, it's, I hope, well, in many places, I think it's almost assumed at this point that somebody, like in a nice restaurant, that chefs are working that way, but it's, it's, it's still not, I think, common enough throughout
Mhm.
the whole country
To locally source.
to locally source. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to even have accessibility to it. It's not always the
Right.
most efficient, inexpensive option for a restaurant.
And I think people also forget that having access to locally grown things is really difficult depending on where you are in the country. I had a
Mhm.
guest who was on a TV show out in Alaska and her thing was meatballs, but they don't have chicken readily available. So she was like, it was this weird, okay, so I do
Huh.
meatballs for a living, but I don't have the protein I need to do it. And how much more expensive it was to do what you wanted to do. And I think educating the public on restaurants are doing the best they can with what they've got and how expensive it can be. That surviving is just like surviving when you buy groceries in your own home. It costs money. You don't want things to go to waste. So they try to repurpose to the best of their ability and doing all the things that make you feel like your dollar's going further for why things are so expensive. There is people that shouldn't dine, I feel that way because they don't understand that and then they complain about it. And I'm like, then just don't come out because we're doing the best we can, just like you are at home.
Yeah, and you kind of made this point earlier, but how much it's a fine line of how much information do you want to is appropriate to give the guest. Like
Mhm.
they're enjoying a night out, maybe on a date with each other. Do you even just from a wine perspective want to talk about the producer, the grape, if it's organic, sustainable, and they're like, just get away from me. Like
I know.
pour the Sauvignon Blanc. I don't, yeah. So, or how much information goes on the menu. They're like,
Mhm.
is it Burgundy or not? Is it champagne or not? Like there's so much information to give, and navigating what's important to who is also a challenge.
My personal favorite, if we're going to go spend money, I actually prefer a smaller menu with the description coming from the server. That's my personal preference because I feel like that's what I'm paying for is the experience, but I come from that world, right? Like I know that they're being trained to understand what they're serving the customer because I feel like that's their job is I think most people take pride in what they're doing. They're not there just to like sling drinks and like show you a good time and get their tip and walk away. They're putting in the work. And so I appreciate that. When you do your menus, do you have descriptive or do you have to kind of cater to what the restaurant's like?
We change it depending on the concept, but I'll
Mm.
say overall, we have little moments of winks and fun, and maybe we'll do a highlight box of
Mhm.
this wine is important to us because, or even with a cocktail, we're donating XYZ to this charity with this cocktail because, or, it's Women's Month and these are all of our
Mm.
female led producers on our list and on our spirits program. So it depends on the property and it depends on the concept and, the size of the menu and all of that. But I'll say overall, we do little moments of highlights.
What is your favorite beverage or cocktail that you've created at any part of your career?
That's tough. Right now, I know martinis are such a thing, but I still really love them.
Me too.
So, yeah, one that I love is at a cocktail bar that we just opened within the past 6 months called Obvio, and we have a uh, martini. The whole concept there is agave based product. So, how do you make an expansive cocktail program that is agave based that feels like you can Manhattan martini? Yes, a margarita, but those kind of things. So we have a martini that's made with a gin that's made from agave, and it uses the byproduct of mezcal production to make this, or excuse me, tequila production to make this gin, which is great from an environmental point of view. And also, it is a really rounded gin. So we made a celeriac martini with it. So it's just a little herbal and a little vegetal. So that's one that I'm excited about right now. But I love it when like I said, when we do these seasonal or some sort of like initiative with a charity feature and the team comes up with something that's meaningful to them because they're the ones that are talking to the guests about it and excited about it and help bring awareness about it.
I love that. I love a good martini. Everyone knows that. I will look for a
Yeah.
martini on a menu, but I only can have one because I'm in that stage of my life where like one and done, and then I gotta go home.
It's
But
tough, especially if
yeah,
you don't know how much vermouth they're using or not. And it happens in a second.
it truly does. I will always make sure I have a bread or cheese accompany it with whatever I order, a martini based.
A good
Obviously,
base.
yeah, just to like make sure I can enjoy the rest of the evening. But I just for my birthday went and got a martini with a basically pickled garden they called it, and it was in there. So it was like carrot, celery, really beautiful. They used like a carrot wash, so it was just like kind of a fun take on a martini, and they called it like a dirty, and it was really
Oh,
fun, and I loved it. I love a good dirty martini. That's that or an espresso, like so basic.
yeah. No, not basic. I'm a sucker for all of them. The martini run and the espresso martini run has been around. It's like just really stuck. And I'm also imbibing. Like, I get it. They're delicious.
But it kind of it takes me it transported me to like a different time. Like I feel I'm an adult now, so I can actually appreciate it. Where I don't think I would have cared less about a martini in my early 20s. Where now I'm like, God, I feel this is totally a wind down moment. enjoying my time out. It's meant to be enjoyed, not to like throw back. And
Mhm.
watching also a bartender make a drink is one of my favorite things. I probably critique a
Yeah.
little bit too. I'm like, "Oh, God, please make sure your hands are washed. You're using like this, that, other thing." But I do appreciate watching a bartender make a drink because there's a lot of time that goes into it. I don't want it like thrown together and it half in my glass. Like I know what I'm paying for. I want to see what I'm getting.
Yeah, a good martini is very important, especially when it's made well for all of the reasons that you just said. But it's also something that like brings this feeling of like adulthood and class and
It
respect. And if it's made properly, then that's you want, if you're just going to have one, you want it to be excellent. And I
exactly.
think that's probably one of the reasons why it stuck around too, is you can still get that feeling, but it's also something that can adapt well based on what
Mhm.
restaurant you're in and who, what the bartender is inspired by. Like there's so many different variations of a martini that it's still a very exciting world.
It is, and it definitely makes you feel grown up. I get to be away from my kids for a little bit, and I'm gonna enjoy this. Because I don't know when I can do it again. That's the other thing. A lot of people that are dining out, I would say, are this isn't always not everyone can dine out all the time. So it is a luxury of getting to enjoy something really special and people doing their craft and doing it well.
Hmm.
Because it is a craft.
Yeah.
It's 100% a skill set. It's not something that anybody can do.
And it's expensive. It's just expensive to go out. It's expensive to operate as a restaurant. So I'm not blaming restaurants by any means, but it definitely is an important point that there's an investment happening and you don't necessarily want to take a risk with your hard-earned money.
Right.
So you want a good martini, you want a great dining experience, you want to get what you're paying for, and especially the service piece that you're talking about, like you're also paying to be
Mhm.
served in a restaurant and all of the great things that can come with that. So I think that's probably a huge marker for the time that we're living in too.
Definitely. And it's all about training and good leadership. And it sounds like being with the JF restaurants, you are one of their leaders that they have turned to and help them evolve their brand. What do you hope for your own personal career? We kind of touched about it a little bit with the wine project, but what do you hope to do as time goes on?
I want to stay in restaurants and stay in this world, and I want to keep opening new spaces and be inspired by the brilliant people around me in this industry. And I also want to keep giving back and keep working with amazing people, even if it's just meeting somebody for a cup of coffee and getting to understand what they're doing by osmosis, but also participating in the work that these amazing people are doing, not just in the States, but internationally. And I want to do more wine projects. I want to keep designing menus and I want to keep working with amazing people. So that's the hope. It is what excites me. And I kind of had this moment a couple of years ago where I was like, boy, I always wanted to be, when I started getting into the beverage side of things, I wanted to be a beverage director. And the dream was at a hotel. And now it's multiple hotels and multiple restaurants. And I was like, this is incredible. And you know, I feel so fortunate to have that. And I find it very sacred and I don't want to lose it, but also what's the
Mhm.
next thing? And I think that this is it, that rewarding piece of working with amazing people and giving back in whatever way I can. So I hope to learn about more ways I can do that.
Well, I think for young women, it's crucial to have really wonderful people to look up to, like such as yourself. You went after something and you not only got it, but you've exceeded it in what I would say like 2 lifetimes. That's incredible to do what you've done. It takes people years to get to where you are and you have worked really hard and you deserve everything that you have gotten. So I truly congratulations to you. I'm so glad that CG connected us. I think that you are a wonderful, intelligent woman in the industry that there should be more of you and just keep doing what you're doing. It's going to help people being able to feel seen and heard. You're making an impact and I hope that you know that.
Thank you so much. That's very
Of course.
kind. And like I said, I feel the same way about everything that you're doing. And yeah, amazing people like CG. CG's
Mhm.
an icon. So
She's
love
great.
her. Yeah, she is great. And yeah, it's such a small industry and it's really exciting to know people like you and her and so many others that are doing the right thing with it. And it's inspiring to me too. So thank you. Thank you for having
Of
me.
course. Well, where can our listeners learn more about you or connect with you?
We have JF Restaurants website, so you can come to any of our restaurants and say hello, and we'll pour you a delicious martini, I promise. Or I'm on Instagram at Amy Racine. Reach out anytime.
Well, thank you so much for your time and sharing a bit about your life and your career. Super appreciative. I can't wait to see what's next for you and for us to collab further. As always, thank you to everyone that's listening. Be sure to follow all things Hospitality Bites, hospitalitybites.com, or connect with me on social media. Please follow my friends, The Walk and Talk Show, for their incredible content, including today's episode. As always, please be kind to yourself and be kind to one another. Amy, thank you again for your time, and I can't wait to chat soon.
Thank you.